This episode begins with Viola visiting Lyra's shop. Viola tells Lyra that she wants to buy a poisonous plant to defeat her enemy. Lyra becomes suspicious of Viola. Who is she really up against? However, Lyra eventually agrees to Viola's request and asks her to wait while she gets it. Lyra can't believe that Viola can shop on her own now. She feels old, remembering vividly when Viola was just a baby 16 years ago when Alyssa suddenly brought the baby to her shop. When Alyssa explained the details, Lyra felt furious at anyone who would abandon a baby like that. The baby could have died at any moment if left alone like that. So angry was Lyra that she threatened to crush the skull of the person who had done such a cruel thing. Lyra asked why Alyssa decided to care for the baby when she could have found foster parents for her. Alyssa said that the baby had a lot of power for a human her size and she couldn't control it yet. Alyssa, being a witch herself, felt that she might be able to teach the baby how to control her magical abilities. Hearing this explanation, Lyra finally agreed to let Alyssa help take care of the baby as she had just had a baby boy herself. Lyra also offered to breastfeed the baby. Back to the present, Lyra finally hands Viola a package containing the poisonous plants she wanted. Viola feels very grateful to Lyra and apologizes for troubling her. Lyra then tells her that, in fact, Alyssa used to be even more troublesome than Viola is now. Alyssa always used to wander aimlessly when overthinking things. Alyssa even once started researching magic for breastfeeding. When Lyra asked her about it, it turned out Alyssa did it because she had just read a thick parenting book that said if she didn't breastfeed her baby, it meant she didn't love him. Lyra immediately grabbed the thick parenting book, stacked it up, and tore it apart with her bare hands. Lyra looked very angry and then told Alyssa that instead of doing weird things like that, she should use her time to sing a song to her baby. The baby's heart would keep beating and her stomach would keep digesting, whether she breastfed her or not. Lyra promised to help Alyssa when she needed something because Alyssa tended to make things worse when she panicked. Alyssa then shared one of the issues concerning the baby, which was her magic control. She had summoned something while she was asleep. Alyssa was worried that this would continue into adulthood. Lyra then analyzed that it was a bed spell, a common occurrence in babies that would cease as they grew. Alyssa retorted, telling Lyra not to compare magic to bedwetting. Lyra then inquired if the baby cried at night. Alyssa replied that it varied each night, but during bad nights, she couldn't sleep at all. Lyra explained that it was baby sleep talking, and to stop it, all you needed to do was watch them for about a minute, and it would stop crying. Alyssa recounted that when the baby refused to sleep, they both stayed awake, eventually taking a broomstick ride in the middle of the night. Alyssa then asked Lyra about another matter, why the baby was seemingly stronger than it appeared. They had a strong grip and powerful kicks. Lyra responded that babies couldn't control their own strength yet, but the problem was that Viola often hit things when her magic power-up was active, causing many holes in the walls. Lyra blushed and admitted that she and Viola might have something in common, as Lyra's parents had said she had also destroyed their house when she was a baby due to her physical strength. Alyssa was amazed to hear this and thought it might be because of Lyra's physical strength since she was a baby. Lyra then asked Alyssa if she might be getting too busy taking care of the baby and handling household matters. Alyssa replied that it wasn't a problem for her because she could handle simple things with magic, like cooking eggs and so on. Lyra was greatly impressed by Alyssa. Alyssa, in turn, expressed her admiration for Lyra, feeling like she was a bad person who always took shortcuts in everything. Lyra tried to reassure Alyssa, saying that taking shortcuts was the key to housekeeping. Lyra shared that she used to eat wheat straight from the sack to avoid cooking. Alyssa admired Lyra greatly, feeling inferior for always making mistakes and not being a good mother. Lyra comforted Alyssa by saying that her attention to detail had also saved Lyra. Lyra once cooked a lot in a pot, and of course, Alyssa told her that people couldn't eat that much. Lyra tried to calm Alyssa by saying that she understood that Alyssa was very attentive to her baby, but every family had a different way of raising their children. If your family stays happy together, it means you're doing things right. Alyssa looked touched by that sentiment. The scene returns to the present, where Lyra and Viola are chatting, and Alyssa enters the store. Alyssa is looking for Viola, and Viola approaches Alyssa to hug her. Viola says that she and Lara were just talking about Alyssa. Lara can only look at their closeness and thinks that Alyssa did the right thing. Lara hopes she can bond better with her son. Alyssa responds that she hasn't seen Lara's son in a long time. He should be around the same age as Viola and going through puberty now. Lara answers that her son is right there too. Lara tries to call her son out of his room to meet Viola and his mom. However, her son responds rudely and doesn't want to be bothered because he stayed up all night and is sleepy. Lara is furious to hear this, and she runs toward her son's room to scold and reprimand him thoroughly. Alyssa and Viola are frightened by this. In her heart, Alyssa says that every family has its own way of raising children. The next day, Alyssa and Viola are seen harvesting herbs and medicines in their garden. Suddenly, an adult elf named Fennel from the elf race, who is currently 183 years old, arrives. He looks young because the elf race has a long lifespan. Fennel comes there every month to buy Alyssa's harvest. Alyssa is pleased and grateful for Fennel's visit, and Fennel looks embarrassed to hear Alyssa's words. Shortly after, Fennel seems to smell something, and it turns out to be the poisonous plant being burned by Viola. Fennel becomes very angry and scolds Viola. Now it's Alyssa's turn to scold Viola for always bullying Fennel. Viola argues that it's because of Fennel, even from their first meeting. When they first met, Fennel told Viola that she could consider him her father. This immediately disgusted Viola, and since then, she has despised Fennel. Viola is jealous, thinking that Fennel has feelings for Alyssa. Hearing their argument, Alyssa strongly denies that notion and says she only considers Fennel as a little brother. Fennel is critically affected by this, and Viola taunts him. Alyssa then tells them that she first met Fennel when she was a child, precisely 100 years ago. Alyssa shares her childhood memories of Fennel, and Viola proudly shows her own childhood and closeness with Alyssa. Finally, Alyssa tries to mediate and invites them to have tea together. Fennel sits down while Alyssa prepares tea in the kitchen and asks Viola to bring it to Fennel. Viola serves tea to Fennel by dipping all her fingers into the cup meant for Fennel. This naturally infuriates Fennel, and Alyssa punishes Viola by telling her to drink that tea and make a fresh one for Fennel. Viola then heads to the kitchen to make a new cup of tea. Fennel observes and teases her, but he notices a sly smile on Viola's face. Fennel realizes that Viola had planned it from the beginning so that he wouldn't drink Alyssa's tea. A few moments later, Alyssa finished wrapping the herbal and medicinal plants for Fennel. It was then that Phoenix appeared, offering a clay ball he had made. Fennel was surprised and asked what kind of creature it was. Viola proudly stated that Phoenix was now her familiar. Fennel advised Viola not to trouble Alyssa with strange things anymore. Viola didn't take well to Fennel's admonishment and mentioned that she had removed her papa, as Alyssa had instructed. This shocked Fennel greatly. Alyssa clarified that they were talking about a golem summoned by Viola, not a father or a human. Fennel finally decided to express his long-suppressed feelings to Alyssa. He wanted to show that he was a mature adult now. Fennel thought about saying something gentle that would make Alyssa understand his feelings. It wasn't romantic words that came out of his mouth, but rather a question about what should I do if my hands turn into broccoli. Hearing this question, Alyssa became worried about Fennel and thought he might be tired. Of course, Fennel didn't expect such a response from Alyssa and ended up falling to the ground. Worried, Alyssa went to the kitchen to fetch a cake. While Alyssa was in the kitchen, Viola started teasing Fennel. Not taking the teasing lightly, Fennel retorted and considered Viola a child who needed to learn to be smarter. Viola, angered, waved her hand, signaling something. Suddenly, Phoenix appeared and shot a laser at Fennel's head. Not long after, Alyssa returned with the cake. However, she was shocked to see Fennel's head inside Phoenix's mouth. Alyssa saved Fennel and cradled his head in her lap. Phoenix argued that it was just a friendly kiss. Now, Fennel's heart was pounding and his face was red. Alyssa thought it was because of the earlier incident, but Viola knew it was because Fennel was now in Alyssa's lap. Finally, Fennel bid farewell and Alyssa apologized to him for what had just happened. Alyssa thanked Fennel for getting close to Viola and hoped he could take care of her. On the other hand, Viola was with Phoenix, experimenting with creating magic traps. One day, Fennel was walking out of his house, and in the middle of the road, he saw something blocking his path. It turned out to be Viola, who appeared to be guarding a game stand. Viola offered Fennel to play the game with a slightly forceful tone. Fennel tried to escape, but he stepped on a magic trap set up by Viola. Reluctantly, Fennel followed Viola's request to play the game. Viola named the game Gin Eel Fishing. The game was akin to fishing. When someone managed to catch 3 eels within 3 minutes, they would win. Viola offered a secret photo if Fennel could win the game. Fennel immediately imagined that it was a photo of Alyssa. Fennel became excited and started playing the game. However hard he tried, no eels would take his bait. Fennel was surprised when suddenly a very large eel appeared. Viola said it was a golden eel, and if he could catch it, he would instantly win the game. With determination, Fennel cast his bait, and the giant eel immediately devoured it and pulled it in. Fennel exerted all his strength to pull the fishing rod as well, and it seemed he succeeded. But what emerged was not the giant eel that had eaten his bait earlier, but had now transformed into Phoenix with its long neck. Now Fennel knew that the game was created only to frustrate him, and he had no chance of winning.